All right, so what we're going to do on this video here is we're going to set up a transaction from the beginning, um, or from most of the beginning, rather. All right, so first thing we're going to have to do is in your email, as a transaction comes in, you will get the contract. You'll get all the different contract pieces. So this agent's name is Sutton. So I've got three emails from Sutton, and eventually we're going to need all of these. So we've got those. We need to know where those are. We need the loop and dot loop. So as you know, when you set up a new loop, you just click the plus sign and literally just fill out the information. However, there's already going to be a loop in here for the contract, because we will have either submitted an offer or we will have already had an active listing. So in this case, this is a listing that is for sale. Listing for sale, pre-listing. Got all the details in here. Now the way that we break this up is we now have two folders. So we have the listing agreement folder, which would have already been in here, nice and neat and organized. It runs off of this listing worksheet, the exact same as the contract runs off the contract worksheet. So we've got the order that the docs need to be in, we've got the listing worksheet, the MLS printout, listing agreement, so on and so forth. And all of those things have to be in that order from top left to bottom right on the worksheet is equivalent to this list right here. So we've got everything nice and neat and orderly, everything's signed, everything is good to go. So then what we do is once we've got a transaction, you'll go right here and you'll click add folder. Adding a folder right here, you'll type the name, which is transaction. Okay, I've already done this, so I'm gonna archive this folder, but we have the transaction folder here, and again we're running off of the contract worksheet. So the contract worksheet has all of these things right here that we need in order, and then we need the data filled out right there. So contract worksheet, so this is the information. So we've got the contract worksheet, we've got the contract worksheet, we've got the MLS printout, we have the MLS sheet, we have the accepted contract. So the order of the accepted contract is always going to be the bound copy first. So a bound copy is this. This is what you're looking for in a bound copy. You got counteroffer 3. Oh man, of course I'm going to show this to you and I don't even have it in. Oh, that's why. Duh. Here, hang on just a second. It's because I hit it. Show archived. Alright, so counteroffer number 3 is this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download it. And then I'm going to add document. I'm going to drag and drop it. So we're at counteroffer 3. I'm going to go ahead and archive this one. I thought this was bound, but I guess not. I'm going to drag this under MLS sheet. There we go. I'm going to open it and make sure this is the bound copy. And it's not. Lovely. Where is the bound copy? I just had it. Show archived. Had it in here. Counteroffer 3. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Sorry, this is a negotiation that went back and forth several times, obviously. So show archived again. Go down here. This one, I will download it. Lovely. I will download it. Thank you. I'll come back up here. I'm going to re-archive this one because it's the wrong one. Add document. Village Way counteroffer 3. Drag it here. I'm going to rename it to bound counter 3. Alright, So what makes an offer bound? An offer is bound when both parties agree to the contract, to the terms of the contract. These are the terms of the contract. So the purchase price is $226,500. The seller's going to pay for home warranty, the seller's going to pay for title and title insurance, and the seller's going to close with Signature Title Services, aka Anna. This was a slight little amendment that was made because we had the wrong date up here. So all parties initialed. This is accepted by the sellers, accepted by the buyer, and this right here makes it a bound contract. So I bound this contract at 8:17 p.m. Once it's a bound contract, that's when the clock starts ticking on the terms of the contract. So to give you an idea of what that means, on the original offer, on the purchase and sale agreement on the original offer, they asked for, let me get to the right page here. All right, inspections, I think it's 6. Yeah, so on here they have buyer's inspection is due within 10 days after the binding agreement date. The resolution period, the seller and buyer shall then have a period of 5 days. So this 5 days starts when this 10-day ends. 10 days end. Following the receipt of the above stated written list. So this is when people are asking for repairs. So here on the 10 days, they're inspecting and doing their due diligence. By the end of the 10th day, they must send us as the seller. If we're the buyer, we have to send it by that timeline. Any repairs that we want done to the property. So if something comes back and they say, well, you know, the floor is soft over here, we want the subfloor repaired. There's any number of things. We want the gutters replaced. We want anything that the home inspection came back and said, we recommend this be fixed. They can ask for. They got to get that to us by the end of the 10th day. From that moment, we have 5 days in order to come to an agreement as to what we actually will fix and what the buyer will accept as repairs. And then 1 day down here, this is all the repairs that are agreed to within the 5 days must be completed within 1 day prior to the closing date, which allows the buyer to have a final walkthrough of the house. So all that to say, the binding agreement date is what kicks off the clock. Okay, so bound counter 3 we've already confirmed is signed by all parties. Counter 2 was signed by the buyer because the buyer was the one making the offer to the seller. We countered it with counter offer 3, and it's still lacking signatures. So I need to send this here to be signed. So I'm going to go ahead and send that. So while that's out, we'll check counter offer 1. So counter offer 1 was countered with counter offer 2. All parties signed. That one is good. Purchase and sale agreement. We're going to go all the way down to page 10. And this needs to be signed. So what we need to do is add a checkbox. Counters. Check it. Add a signature box. Put the seller, in this case. Sometimes you're putting the buyer, but put our client, whomever it is that we represent. So counters, this also needs a signature. So we're going to send this for signature. Alright, so now let's look at this. So we've got accepted contract. We're lacking confirmation of agency, property disclosure, disclaimer notice. So she sent a one file with several documents. Village Way disclosure. So you got the confirmation of agency status here. We have the property condition exemption here. And we have the disclaimer here. So those 3 docs are all in this one file. So how do we get to it? The easiest way that we're going to do it is we're going to go here to File and Split Document. We're going to split it into 3 documents because there are 3 documents. We have the confirmation of agency, which is 1. We have the property condition exemption, which is 2, but it's 3 pages long. So we're going to say, so this is confirmation of agency is number 1. So here's the confirmation of agency. It's page 1 of 1. That's it. Now, the second document we're going to split into is the property condition exemption. Okay, so it starts on page 2, goes to page 3, and it's signed on page 4, so 2 to 4. And then the third one is the disclaimer notice, and it starts on page 5, goes through 6, and ends on 7. So I'm going to hit split document, and now all of a sudden we have 3 docs, and now they just need to be put in order. So we'll slide them up here just like this, nice and easy. Oops. Cool. Alright, so we have confirmation, property condition, and disclaimer. Lead-based paint only applies if the property was built prior to 1978, which this one was not. Earnest money check, they are dropping it in the mail tomorrow according to her email on this final email here. So she said, please have the seller initial 11/15 offer, yada yada yada. The home inspection is scheduled for this Saturday at noon. Earnest money check is in the mail tomorrow. So as soon as the earnest money check lands in our office at Brentwood, they will scan that copy and email it to us. At that point, we need to make sure that it gets dropped into dotloop. So obviously we're not going to check that one off yet. Compensation agreement, aka the cooperative agreement, we do not have that yet, but here she said, I will get the compensation agreement over to you this evening. Well, we don't have it yet, but it is what it is. Alright, buyer's representation agreement does not apply because in this case we represent a seller. Base commission fee form we do have, and the disclosure of business form we do have. And they are right here underneath the listing package. So all in all, this one is actually just about done. All we need is the copy of the earnest money check and the compensation agreement. So what we need to do in here is make sure this information is right. Alright, so the MLS number 1778889, where do I find that? Well, you're going to go in here, you're going to go to MLS sheet. It's right here on the top, MLS number, right there. So that is good. Sales price is $226,500. Where are you going to find that information? Well, you will find that information on the bound counter offer. If there's not a bound counter offer, you'll find it on the bound purchase and sale agreement. Purchase price be $226,500. So $226,500. Property address is obviously in the MLS sheet. Offer date was not November 9th. It was November 15th. So we'll correct this. Closing date. Where do we find the closing date? Well, it's not on the bound counter offer. This is one of those items you have to go through each one because if there's something that's agreed to on a previous contract or previous counter, it's not necessarily countered in a future one. But we'll go straight to the purchase and sale because in this one I know it's on the purchase and sale. I think it's on page, let's see where it is. Right here on page 4, line 177, agreement shall expire on the 20th day of December 2016. So the closing date is December 20th. So December 20th. The binding agreement date is today, the 17th. This is residential. Again, how do you find that? You look at the MLS sheet. right here. You see residential, so you click residential. Earnest money. Who holds the earnest money and how much earnest money is it? Again, you're usually going to go through the counter offers and verify that there's nothing about it in here. That is something that's commonly countered. I wouldn't say it's always countered, but it is a common thing to counter, whether it's the amount or where it's held. Normally it's the amount. So we're going to find that information right here on page 3, number 3, line 144. Earnest money will be paid within 4 days after the binding agreement date to Remax Elite at our Brentwood office for $2,000. So Remax Elite, Brentwood, $2,000. Okay, I know the buyer's name is Rachel Elizabeth Smith. And where do I find that? I find that on page 1 right here, Rachel Elizabeth Smith on the original purchase and sale agreement. Listing agent is me. So where will you find that if it's not just me? Well, you'll probably know because of where the email came from or from whom the email came from. But if it's not there, you can go right here on the listing worksheet. If it's a listing, you'll see listing agent Sean Myque, co-listing agent Jordan Cooper. So you can get that information right there. The selling agent, her name is Sutton Lipman Costanza. Right here. And we're going to need her cell phone number. And her company is really long. Alright, so selling side 3%. Again, where do you find that? You're going to find that, usually you're going to find that right here in the listing agreement. So this one's a little bit different because Jordan is the seller. Generally, you'll see a percentage right here, and this percentage is the percentage that we get on a listing agreement. And then this percentage is what the selling agent gets. So in this case, we get 0%, and the selling agent gets 3%. So listing side 0, 3%. Now, only because this is an internal deal, aka Jordan, is this $199. That's the only time that's going to be $199 is if it's someone within our team. Our team standard is $499. Team leader, in this case, I'm just going to make sure that it's 0. Team leader is Sean. Team member is whomever is involved in the contract. So I'm going to put 100% to Jordan Cooper. Not that there's anything that he gets really, but I just want to cover my bases just in case there was something that is owed to him. I want to be sure that it goes straight to him because it is his deal. So alright, so I'm going to hit save. All we're missing again, earnest money and the compensation agreement. Once that is done, we will upload those docs. You got to make sure it's under the correct folder, but we'll upload those into here. And then we'll go up here and we'll hit submit to review. We'll submit the transaction and the listing agreement folder. It'll be, the type will be a seller on both, listing and listing, and then you'll hit submit. So I'm not going to do it right this second because we don't have the earnest money. Now, in Gmail we have Folio. When a transaction comes in, when Folio sees emails that look like they could be a transaction, it'll usually prompt you right here if you want to go ahead and start the transaction up, the timeline. I've already done it on this file, so here it is. Now, what I do when I first start, first thing I do is I click Add Service Provider. I'll add the inspector. So in this case, the inspector is Matt Brown with Win Inspections. I had received an email from him with the scheduling. So right here, so this is where I got all that information. And what I'm doing is I'm teaching the team that any transactions that occur, they need to be sure that they're forwarding important information like this over to you to streamline the process. You're not having to search all over the place for information. So we've input him. Lenders, I found this information because when she sent the offer to us, there was a pre-approval letter attached. So I found Starling Noel, phone number, and that's really all we need in here. So put that in there, and then Anna is closing for us, and that is all we need there. When you go through the setup process, it'll tell you to assign buyers or sellers, whichever transaction type it is. So then I went through and I went ahead and added all the dates. So the dates right off the top, we need a home inspection. We need to know when the earnest money is due. So we knew when the home inspection was because the buying agent informed us of that. We knew when the earnest money is due because we saw it on the purchase and sale agreement on page 3, line 3, page 3, section 3. Let's find it. Right here. So they've got 4 days. So earnest money is due 4 days out. Inspection deadline. So when was the inspection deadline? It was 10 days, right? So we'll double check it. So 10 days on the inspection. So the cool thing is when you want to add something, you literally just go right here and you say, all right, 10 days, and it'll go ahead and program the date, and you'll say inspection deadline. Boom, save. And that will go ahead and add it on here. Inspection resolutions deadline is 5 days after this one, so I put 15 days total equals that. The appraisal deadline is generally a guesstimate, so I usually guess it to be about 18 days out. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's not, but that's just a good rule of thumb until we get further updates. The total repair deadline is going to be the day before closing day. So we've got all these things programmed in. We shared it with the client, so the client's getting updates on these things, and that will streamline that. So next, we need to go into next. We'll add the property. 5325 Village Way. It is a listing. This one's a little bit different because we don't ever do listings. So we'll do like the next 2.0 seller closing plan until I build one out. So the starting date is going to be today. Ending date is going to be the closing date, which the closing date is December 20th. Add a property. So now that we have everything in here, what we're going to do is we're going to add all parties to next, and we're literally just going to follow this checklist all the way into closing. So we can kind of streamline that flow. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add the parties to next. I'll click the people up here, add new party, Jordan Cooper. Jordan is the seller. Save. I'm going to add the party. I'm going to add Sutton Lipman Costanza. Over here, I'm going to find her email address because I have no idea what it is. I'm going to add her phone number because I don't know what it is. And she is the we'll just call her a real estate agent because that's what she is. We will add Anna. Anna is our title representative. And at some point we will add the lender, except I do not know the lender's email address, but I guess I can look it up. So we will go to Google and we will type in Starling Knoll, Farmington Financial. And we will find her, him, her, I'm assuming. Starling, her. Alright, we're going to look right here on the bottom. When you hover over this, in the very bottom, it shows the email. So Starling N at farmingtonfg.com. So Starling N at farmingtonfg.com. So make sure all that information is correct. Her phone number was on this pre-approval letter, 4850033. And she is the loan she's the lender, so safe. So we've added everyone to the transaction. I'm going to go ahead and launch these tasks. And so now that these are done, boom. So contract close key dates and deadlines. What is this? So yeah. So yeah, this is a great email to go out, except that we're not going to send this email. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to clean this process up in here, but we're not going to send this email because we're using Folio, which is something that nobody else uses, which is hugely advantageous, this thing, because it's beautiful and it streamlines the process really, really, really well. So turn in all paperwork to office. Obviously, that's a priority. Unfortunately, we can't do it until we get the earnest money check. So that's going to have to be on hold. HOA docs needed. This one, in this particular case, I do remember we did send them to the client before we went under contract. So that's done. All right. Turn off automatic prospecting. So we will do that when we represent a buyer, not a seller, so I'm not entirely sure what's in here. Mark pending in MLS. So MLS, what we do in here, so this is the listing. We log in. So you'll have to log in under mine because all listings have to go under me. So it's Sean Mike it's Rich1, capital R, capital O. And when you log in, you'll go to my page, you'll go to add edit listing. You go to property list. 1778889 5325 Village Way, Nashville. Active. So what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we got this bullet clicked. We're going to hit change status. And we're going to go to under contract showing. And we'll just put it under inspection contingency. So it's under contract. We do still allow showings. It's under an inspection contingency. Now, when it actually moves to pending is once we move beyond the inspection. Once the inspection period is through, we can then bump it over to pending. But until then, we have to keep it this way. It's under contract. It is still showing. And now that is done. So we'll go back over here. Let's make sure everything's done for the day on these tasks. Alright, so we still have to turn in all the paperwork to the office. That is important, absolutely, but it's not going to be done tonight just because it can't. We do have other items we've got coming up tomorrow and all that jazz. And again, I'll go and I'll clean that stuff up. But I wanted to walk through the process of getting everything set up, getting it all organized so that literally all you have left to do is upload the earnest money and the compensation agreement and submit this for review. And then we just need to make sure that we're keeping track of these deadlines, which is going to be done for you essentially over here. And keeping track of this process over here. Other than that, everything is pretty much all done for you. It takes about maybe 30 minutes to an hour up front. Obviously, it's going to be quicker the more you do it. But it's going to take, just that little bit of time up front, and then literally you're pretty much on autopilot from that point on, other than updating the lender, getting updates from the lender, and then we'll still submit the docs to Anna. So in fact, I'll do that right now. It does need to go to the title company, so what we'll do is we'll grab the MLS sheet, the counter offers, we'll grab literally everything. Personal interest and the FHA disclosure. So the only reason we don't need to send this is literally just the pre-approval letter for the person buying the house. That's irrelevant to Anna. And contract worksheet is an internal document. And then coming over here, I'm going to give her the base fee form and the RESPA disclosure, because those include fees that are going to have to go on the closing statement. So we're going to make sure we have all those things there. I'm going to add her. I'm going to make sure, here she is, she's already in here. And I'm going to click share. I'm going to make sure they're unchecked. I'm going to check Anna. I'm going to attach the PDF to email. I'm going to say, hello, here is another deal for you. Thanks. Share. Voila. Alright, so now literally it's just get some check-ins from the lender, and then as we get closer we'll get an update from the buying side. As far as this goes, we'll get an update from the buying side, and they will let us know what time they're closing once they have clear to close and all that jazz as soon as we get through the inspections, the appraisal, and all that. So that's it. If you have any specific questions, I will do more of these with different scenarios. But if you have any specific questions on anything, let me know, and I will help you. And let's rock out. Let's make some cash. Ciao. If I can figure out how to end this thing.